all of this and more with Illinois Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger. He's joining us. He's a U.S. Air Force pilot. He served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He serves on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, also has served on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
You bet, Wolf. Thanks for having me.
So we all remember this very famous Donald Trump quote from the campaign trail. Listen.
I know more about ISIS than the generals do, believe me. I would bomb the out of them.
So why the switch? Why he's filling his key government posts, several of them, with retired generals and admirals potentially?
Well, I think what you see is a difference between, campaign. Obviously, Donald Trump ran a very unique campaign, and some of the things he said and the ways he did it, versus governing, when the weight of the presidency comes down on your shoulders and all of a sudden you wake up and realize, I'm president of the United States or president-elect, I've got to put together a team. Then you start in a very serious way looking, who's the best for this position. And I think, there's a lot of kind of hysteria over the number of generals that he's putting in there. I think it's important to remember that, they're not in the military currently, they're retired. But somebody like in the case of Mattis that can come in with a perspective of knowing where, there's waste in the Pentagon, knowing how the process of buying new planes and everything else works and where it fails, is basically the right person we need in that for this moment. So a lot of hysteria is being made about the number of generals, but it's important to note we're not taking folks directly out of the military in uniform and putting them in a civilian position. They're retired.
What do you think the greatest concern is about having these retired military commanders in these top cabinet civilian posts?
Well, I don't have a great number of concerns about them, but what I've heard from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle is, there has to be a separation between, in essence, civilian leadership and military leadership. I fully agree with that, and that's why, again, if he was taking somebody that's a currently serving general and placing them in the role of Secretary of Defense, for instance, there'd be widespread opposition to that. But instead, you have a guy that's, really been dedicated to the cause of the nation, to the defense of the nation, and has been retired for 3 years, and you're putting him in a position where he can shake up the Pentagon, as we've read about the waste that was buried in the Pentagon, and understands what we need to do to prosecute the war against ISIS and whatever comes after ISIS.
Do you have any concerns about his picks so far?
I don't. The only one slight concern, slight interest in is obviously General Flynn, and for the reasons you outlined a little bit earlier, and some of the things that I've heard potentially about Russia and his, I guess, affection to it. But he's been very good about what we need to do to destroy terror, what we need to do to destroy, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and all these. So, that's NSA is Donald Trump's pick, and we'll see how he does there.
That was the concern expressed by Tim Kaine, the senator from Virginia. Let's talk about retired General John Kelly. He's the man tapped to become the next Secretary of Homeland Security. He's a retired U.S. Marine Corps general, as you know. He led the U.S. Southern Command under President Obama. He's a former senior military assistant to Defense Secretary Leon Panetta. One other very important point. He is a Gold Star dad. His son, Second Lieutenant Robert Kelly, was killed while serving in Afghanistan. Let's listen to a clip of a speech, a very powerful speech General Kelly gave back in 2014 at a California Gold Star Parents event. Listen to this.
When future generations ask why America is still free, in the heyday of these terrorists and their allies was counted in days rather than centuries, as they said, as they proclaimed would work or would happen, that our hometown heroes, our soldiers, our sailors, our airmen, our Coast Guardsmen, our Marines, that they can say, because of me and people like me who risked all to protect millions, millions who will never know my name, that's why we still have an America. And for those of you tonight and all of the families who have lost the light of their lives, they can say to every American that it was my boy or it was my girl who stood their post and did their duty into eternity.
Very emotional, powerful words from General Kelly. Do you think, Congressman, that having a Gold Star father as the Secretary of Homeland Security will make a difference?
Yeah, I think so. That was the first time I've ever heard that, and it choked me up, to be honest with you. I think it does make a difference. You know, it's one thing to be in military command. It's one thing to talk about defending the homeland. It's a totally another thing to have felt that sacrifice personally. And, you know, you see that in the weight of a president is he has to order troops into combat. But you especially see that in the weight of somebody that lost somebody serving, and puts a different perspective on, you know, what sacrifice is, puts a different perspective on, you know, what freedom and what America means, and I think that's a good perspective to come.
You should listen to the whole speech he delivered. It's a powerful speech, Congressman, and you served in Afghanistan, you served in Iraq, and I'm sure you lost friends fighting for the United States in Iraq and Afghanistan. To hear General Kelly speak as a Gold Star dad, as a Gold Star father, remembering obviously his own son who was killed in action in Afghanistan, and so many others who died in Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere. Very powerful. I recommend it to our viewers as well. Congressman, thanks very much for your service. Thanks for joining us.
You bet, Wolf. God bless the troops. Thank you.